So repairs. Oops. So for some people say that it's 5 to 10% of rent. And for this place, because it's completely renovated and completely redone, I completely lowballed this number because after looking at it, I don't think that it would need any touching. And it's a condo too, it's not a house, right? So for this, I honestly, I just said 2%. This is the only time I would ever lowball anything like this. And in my next examples, which I'm gonna be giving in my next videos, I overestimate. But this is a serious calculation. So 2% for this place of rent. 2% for now. The vacancy rate in this area, so vacancy rate in this area is actually 3%, which is pretty good. I mean, it's not Toronto where it's 1, but it's 3%. And so we're going to overestimate like we always do. And we're going to say that there's a 5% chance that you're going to be vacant. Okay. So it's normal. It is 3%, but we're going to call it 5 to be safe to kind of offset the repair stuff. Now, because this is a few hours away from my home, something like property management is something that I would very much consider. So what I was able to find in this area was a 7% fee of rent. It was like some percentage of 1 month's rent, and it ended up being 7%. So 7% of rent automatically goes there. So all this adds up to $168 in extra expenses per month. All right? $168 of extra expenses. So we're going to calculate a few things here. So we're going to add all this up. Sorry, just give me 1 second here. 1 second. We're going to do some maths. People like to do the cap rate, which is the capitalization rate, it pretty much determines if it's a good investment or not. I disagree with a lot of it. For me, I don't know. I'll explain that in another video. It's a long example. But cap rate, it is good for the most part. So I like to think of it as net income without net income. So it's like your income minus expenses, but the mortgage doesn't count as an expense. Okay? If that makes any sense whatsoever. And so the net income, not including the mortgage, would be $588 a month. $588 a month. And you multiply that by 12. So by 12 months. And you divide that by the value of the property, right? So the value, what you would buy it for. So this one was $125,000. So doing some maths is there, and then you multiply it by 100 and whatever. But so the cap rate for this place is 5.68%, which a lot of people would look at and be like, that's not great. I think it's pretty good. It's not the best place. It's no multifamily place, but for a single family, I think that's actually okay. Usually people would like to see 8% before they start considering a place, but 5.64% or it's 5.64%. It doesn't matter. 5.6%. And so that's the cap rate. It's not the greatest, but not horrible for this area, especially considering it's a nice area and it's a nice apartment, and places that are nice in downtown don't have as high of cap rates. But the appreciation goes up a lot faster too. So that's something that I take into account in a property like this. So another calculation I wanted to do was, what is this one? This one is, oh yeah, so this one's just the theoretical net income per year. So remember that our rent was $1,200. Our expenses, I guess, So our net income was $1,200 a month from rent, and you are subtracting the $917 of base expenses and the $168 worth of extra expenses that you should experience. per month. So that equates to, you're making 115 bucks a month. Is that right? 1,000, yeah, $115 a month. So you're making 115 a month. There we go. You're making $115 a month in net income, which to me, that for this area, that ain't that bad. Appreciation's gonna go up in this place a lot because it's directly downtown. So it's not bad. And cash flow, if I were, having a family right now, I wouldn't invest in this place just by looking at this numbers. But because I'm on my own right now, don't have anyone to take care of it myself, this is a good number. So $115 a month, but on top of that, what I like to always include, well, I guess here, so that equates to $1,380 a year. But one thing that I always like to include, and people for whatever reason don't include this when they calculate a property, is that if you were to get rent, you would be getting about $4,500 a year in equity. Which people don't really consider that often. Equity to me is almost as good as cash. It's obviously not as good, but to me it's still like great for someone. So think about this. If you add this all up, that's $5,880 a year in assets you're gaining. And for me as a 22-year-old, that's pretty good just from one investment of $25,000. So now we're gonna do one more calculation, and then we gotta move on to the multifamily. One more calculation. So cap rate 5.6%. You're making like $6,000 a year in assets. Pretty good. So remember our numbers. So we're having a net income of $1,380 a year. $1,380 a year. And so we're going to divide that by our down payment of $25,000. And so this is our rate of return, I guess we should say. And so that equals 5.5%. And for me, again, I think that this is good for me, right? I know multifamily, you can get a lot higher than this. But again, you're gaining equity, more appreciation, but you're getting a 5.5% return on investments. For me, I invest in stocks at a much better return than that. But theoretically, if you're to include equity into this equation, you're getting more value from this. You're getting much more value. But yeah, so for me in stocks, I've been very fortunate. I've done a lot of work into it. If I have a bad 3 months, I'll still gain about 5 to 6%. I've had months where, again, I've mentioned this in my other videos, where I've hit on Nike and Apple, and I had a large stake in those two, and they went up by like 30% in a few months, right? I bought it for like 80 bucks or 85 bucks, and then the Canadian dollar dropped, and the stock went up to like 131, which I sold it at. So I've had good luck with that stuff. So when people don't believe me that I had, in a span of 3 months, that I had beyond a 50% return, people don't believe me until I show them the numbers, right? And 50% return, that's including the Canadian dollar thing. But anyways, I'm getting back to this. I guess I should wrap it up actually. So pretty much what I would say about this property is that it's in a very, very good area. If you want to bet on appreciation, this would be a good place to go for myself. It's in a shopping district. You're going to see a 5.5% return. Not bad, not great, but not bad. But you're also gaining equity every year. And for me also, if I wanted to, I could move in there if I wanted to. That's the other thing that I think about. Like if that place gets paid off or whatever in the next 10, 15, 20 years, after I keep doing capital repayments, then I could live there and I barely had to pay anything. I would have pretty much paid 25 grand for this place, right? So for me, this is a good investment. It's a safe investment. You're probably going to get it rented out every single year because it's downtown. It's a very, very safe bet in my mind. And I think it would be a good first investment. but you're not going to see a massive return like you would in a multifamily home. It's not as risky, this place, but well, I guess it's kind of risky, because if you're part of the 3.3% that have a vacancy, then you're screwed, right? But again, I would be confident that I could rent it out. So anyways, yeah, I guess that's kind of, well, I'm going to wrap up that example. I'm going to get to multifamily next, and just stay tuned, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Make sure to click on the multifamily video if it's up by now. Go click. But anyways, you are all beautiful people. Now I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.